so in love with you.
Welcome back to Real Estate Mindset. Today's video is going to be absolutely bonkers. Now, the data is in and the eviction crisis continues to get worse as we make our way through 2023. And in today's video, I'm going to go over certain metro areas that are absolutely being melted down right now, like areas like Phoenix and Las Vegas. Now, when we add the Airbnb disaster, unaffordability, and things like that, these areas with surging eviction rates are going to soften the prices for future homeowners because it's going to continue to put pressure on the rental market. And once the rental market goes, you guys, it will be a total collapse in real estate. And the question that I have is, how much longer can this unaffordability really last? We have a major issue in America right now when it comes to housing, shelter, buying a house, even renting a house. We'll cover those things today, as well as taking a deeper look at squatter rights. So I'm going to go over state by state, and we're going to really look at what states have the best and worst squatter rights. We'll also listen to a video on squatter rights, because to me, the fact that there are any squatter rights at all is shocking, because some bum can just move in your house and take over your property. Shocking. And we'll end the video briefly talking about the vacant home crisis. So on one hand in our country, we have an inventory crisis, and on the other hand, we have a vacant home crisis. And then on the other hand, we have an eviction crisis, an Airbnb crisis. I mean, how much longer can the consumer really support the market? I mean, essentially, the entire economy is being propped up off of the backs of the consumer. We can't afford to keep doing this. Something needs to change. But if you can, just remember, I'm not a financial advisor, even though my bio is as a struggling American, frustrated father, concerned husband, someone that is struggling to work as hard as possible and save as much money as possible so that I am constantly increasing my purchasing power so that I do not get stuck on the sideline renting. And I'm trying to bring you guys through that journey with me. And if you guys can, please, from the bottom of my heart, I ask you, like this video, subscribe if you haven't already, shoot me a comment below, and please, guys, share this video so we can pass the message on. So we'll start with Eviction Lab, which will be linked in my description. And we're only going to look at 3 cities. I want to start with Phoenix because I've been seeing a tremendous amount of issues going on in Phoenix right now. And some of you may recall that I believe it's possible that Phoenix becomes the #1 crashing metro area. Right now it's Austin, but I believe Phoenix can get to 1, especially if they ban Airbnb. But take a look at what's going on with evictions. When we look at Phoenix, we can see that there's been 75,000 filings in the past year. But what's important to understand about that information is that's 19% already, 19% over where we were at pre-pandemic. Now, the other thing is it's surging even worse because when we look at the past month, it's actually 33% higher than it was pre-pandemic. So there are really bad things going on in Phoenix right now. And that's not all, you guys. Look at the eviction filing rate, a whopping 13%. To me, that's absolutely shocking. But look at this month-over-month eviction filings relative to the average. Obviously, the horizontal line is the average. And you can see that Phoenix has been over pre-pandemic averages for the last year. And look at, you can see it's getting worse and worse and worse. And it's actually ballooned up as of March of this year. So this is showing me that the consumer and the locals out in Phoenix are not doing okay. And you can kind of see where the epicenter is right here, really in this zip code of 85301. It's very interesting to note that there's a high concentration right here. Let's take a look now at Tampa, Florida, because everyone's been waiting on the housing market in Florida to start calming down. Now you can see here that Tampa is actually 13% above pre-pandemic, sitting at almost 20,000 filings in the past year. And again, it's getting worse in Tampa, and school loans haven't even started yet. Month over month, it's 20% over average. Now, the eviction filing rate is not as bad as Phoenix. It's sitting at 6%. Now, when we look at the month over month eviction filing rate, we can see that Tampa has been over pre-pandemic evictions for over a year. And when we look from June to right now, we can see it's steadily getting worse. And odds are it's going to continue to get worse because things are getting only more unaffordable right now. They're not getting better yet. And when we look here, you can see the eviction crisis has spread out a lot more than Phoenix. It's all over the place in the Tampa area. Very interesting to me how there's pockets of eviction explosions. Now, another metro area in super bad shape is Las Vegas. And honestly, guys, Las Vegas can also become number one. It's really between Las Vegas, Phoenix, and Austin. My money is in Austin and Phoenix, but Las Vegas is going through one of the worst eviction crises in America, topped with the fact that they have just recently outlawed Airbnb. I expect Las Vegas is going to be crumbling right before our eyes. And take a look at the eviction information, guys. We are 60%. Las Vegas is 60% higher than pre-pandemic, sitting at 58,000 filings over the past year. And it's getting worse. Look at the month-over-month filings. It's 70%, and it's shocking. 70% over the national average. But the most shocking thing of all, y'all, look at this. Las Vegas right now is sitting at a 16% eviction filing rate. How the heck is that possible? Massive problems going on right now in Vegas. If I'm on the sidelines in Vegas, I'm getting super excited because there's an absolute meltdown in the rental market. And again, once the rental market goes, everything will follow. And to really put this in perspective, look at the month-over-month eviction filings. Again, same with the other three metro areas. Las Vegas has been over pre-pandemic evictions for over a year, and it's been doing nothing but getting worse. Peaking around December at 82% above averages. So seriously, guys, based on those three metro areas, how do we not have an eviction crisis? But it is important to understand not all metro areas are above pre-pandemic. I'm simply showing you some of the metro areas that have the worst eviction crisis around the nation. Now what I want to do is go into squatter laws, because one thing that absolutely blows my mind is the fact that someone has the ability to basically take over your property if they can squeak by undetected. So let's go into squatter rights right now. According to this article, Florida has the best squatter rights, or the worst if you're a landlord. That's because Florida is one of the states with the highest prevalence of squatters. Squatter rights exist in Florida and indeed in the rest of the country. As a matter of fact, they can legally claim ownership of your property through an adverse possession claim. And to be honest, there's probably more squatters in Florida than any other place because there's so many second homes in Florida and speculation homes in Florida that are basically sitting vacant year round. But what's really interesting here is basically a time frame. Someone has to sneak into your house and remain undetected by you and your neighbors for a period of time before they can technically take your house from you. And I'm going to break down these states. Before I break down these states, if you're from Texas, let me know where you think Texas ranks on this list. Personally, I thought Texas would be the strictest when it comes to actual squatter rights. Take a look at what I found. Y'all, Texas is the second best state for squatters. How the heck is that possible? Completely blew me away. The time frame in Texas, y'all, is only 5 years. So if someone stays in your property in Texas for 5 years, they can take your property over. Now, I wouldn't suggest that because most homeowners in Texas own a gun. But look at the number one best state for squatters. Shocking to me, you guys. Arizona. The term is only 3 years. Now it's 3 years, but you have to also pay property taxes in 3 years to do that. If you're not paying property taxes, it's actually 10 years, but the shortest amount of time is actually shockingly 3 years in Arizona. Now, after Texas, we have Montana at 5 years and California at 5 years. No surprise to me that California is on the bottom here. I figured California would be the best for squatters. Just really, really surprising. Let me show you guys at the top. Now, the state with the worst squatter rights is actually New Jersey. Big props to New Jersey. You have to be squatting in a property for a whopping 30 years before you can claim that as your own. Now, after that, as you guys can see here, it goes Ohio at 21 years. All of these states here are 20 years. Then it goes to 15 years. Most states are between 20 years and 10 years, as you guys can see here. Most being 10 years. Then we got 7, and then 3 states with 5, Texas included, 1 state, crazy Arizona, at only 3 years. So when I read something like that, the first thing I'm thinking of is how many con artists and scams are out there where there's serial squatters that actually do this for a living. I mean, essentially, this is fraud and a scam that's actually legal. And to put this in perspective, let's watch a brief video on serial squatters. And after that, we'll briefly go into the vacancy crisis around America.
This home is being held hostage.
All right, 4915.
Squatters. It's a name for occupants who don't pay rent. And that's who's lived here for the last 9 months.
Crazy.
And they know what they're doing.
Professional deadbeat tenants. They've learned to play the game.
Hello?
Well, it was our first house, you know. We got married there. We had our wedding reception there. Then as our family grew, we needed a larger place.
Rather than sell, Karen and Skip Moriarty have been renting their Fair Oaks home to several tenants for the last 34 years.
We made it into an investment, but we plan to downsize and go back there.
But before moving back, they decided to lease it one final time.
It's Craigslist. It's cheap, free.
When a couple named Ann and Mario Figueroa reached out, they met for a house tour.
Had a nice long conversation. Wonderful people.
To seal the deal, Karen requested documents, including a credit report and 401k statement.
He has 20 times as much as I have in my 401k.
With that, Karen and Skip handed over the keys in August 2022. Immediately, there were problems.
In September, they were late. We deeply apologize. Mario's grandfather passed last week, and we had to contribute.
When the next month came,
Then his mother.
as December rolled around,
Mario's father was sick.
that's when they stopped paying altogether. Without rent, Skip and Karen had to cover the mortgage.
I'm holding off buying Christmas presents.
10 days before Christmas, Karen drove by.
It looked like they were having a party.
She could not handle it. She was melting down.
Desperate for help, they reached out to their real estate agent.
I've had hours of conversations with Karen, frustrated, upset, crying.
Gary Meek is familiar with squatters, but some, he says, are experts.
Unfortunately, there are criminals out there that use amazing talent and education for bad.
He asked to see the documents Mario and Ann provided when moving in and made a discovery.
They've all been falsified. The bank statements, the credit reports, everything has been falsified.
But they discovered something even more astonishing. This is not the first house the Figueroas have squatted in.
They've squatted in this one and this one. In fact, court records show since 2008, there have been at least 8 prior residences in Sacramento County alone that Mario and Ann have lived in for months and not paid rent. They've been evicted from homes in Wilton, Elk Grove, and Fair Oaks, some just blocks from one another. One of those homes was Tari Guns.
He was just so charmful and helpful and everything. And I thought, well, these are going to be good.
The second victim.
Right off the
named
bat,
Squatter.
rent was replaced with excuses.
Same
The
excuse.
same excuses Karen and Skip got.
And it was so hard because they got to live there rent free,
It took time and money to evict them.
having to go back and forth, court, filing, just everything. I just incurred so many financial issues that it was really hard.
The reality is landlords have also been taking a beating, especially in areas where there's these extreme cases of squatter rights and in areas where they still have the eviction ban. So a little bit of sympathy does need to go, at least in my opinion, it does need to go partially to landlords, especially if they're the victims of these kind of deadbeat tenants and squatters. However, let's now listen to a video that's going to talk about the other side of the coin when landlords actually charge too much money and force tenants out. Take a listen.
Alex, I can tell you that time is definitely running out for these families. They have contacted city, county, and state officials, and so far, no help.
I'm scared. I don't even know what's going to happen to my mom. She's been worrying about the evictions.
It's a legitimate concern for the families living in this RV mobile home park in Paramount.
Well, it just isn't fair, you know.
Jim Carver has called this place home for 3 decades. Many of the residents have also lived here for years. It's the only place they've been able to afford in LA County.
No tenemos a dónde ir, nos vamos a quedar con ellos.
Their home, which used to be called the Wheel Trailer Park, was recently sold. It is now Elijah Park LLC, and the new owners are raising the rent a whopping 200%.
They raised my rent, the space rent, from $500 to $1,500. So it just doesn't seem fair to all of us.
This is something that's going out of control because they're raising it from $600 all the way up to $1,500. That's unfair.
I wouldn't be living here if I could afford some other place. It's going to leave me homeless.
When the tenants told the new owners they cannot afford a 200% increase, they all received a 60-day notice of eviction.
Goodbye.
Everybody keeps telling us that our hands are tied. It's a civil matter, but it's just not fair.
One of the tenants emailed the Department of Housing and Community Development asking if the new owners had a legal permit. To her surprise, the department had this to say: "Our records indicate that the new owners have not contacted HCD to amend the permit to operate, nor have fees been paid for the last 4 years."
It'd be nice to find somebody that would want to step up and actually really help, because at this point, nobody has.
So the point I was trying to make right there is, as a landlord, you can't be gouging people. It's not fair to raise someone's rent 200%. So in other words, you guys, the rental market right now is an absolute disaster. And that's not just long-term, also STRs like Airbnb and VRBOs, total catastrophe going on right now. Let's add another crisis to this video, which is the vacant home crisis. If we just had 10%, even 5% of the vacant homes around the United States right now, we wouldn't be in the problem we're in right now. The fact that there are so many homes that are just sitting there, they're not being sold, they're not being rented, they're not being lived in, is a crisis in its own. Now, this is a great article called Vacant Homes versus Homelessness in Cities Around the U.S. Very good article. Really what I want to point out is just some key findings in this article. Over 580,000 Americans are experiencing homeless. And here's the shocker, you guys. There are currently 28 vacant homes for every one person experiencing homelessness in the U.S. To me, that's an absolute crisis and failure of society. How do we have 28 homes just sitting there doing nothing, vacant, when we have a homelessness crisis in America? None of this adds up. It goes on. While cities like New York City, Los Angeles, and Seattle have some of the largest unhoused populations in the country, Detroit has the most vacant homes per unhoused person at 116 empty homes per unhoused person. So for every homeless person, there are 116 vacant homes. And if you guys really want to dig into this, this is the city with the highest ratios of vacant homes to people experiencing homelessness. It is very interesting. The place with the best squatter rights is not on this list. Kind of interesting if you think about it, probably because the squatters just move into houses and I guess they're not considered homeless anymore. St. Louis, 98 homes for one homeless person. Syracuse, New York, 110. Chicago, 57. So we do have a vacant home crisis in America. And then maybe that's why these squatter rights even exist. And in conclusion, y'all, my thing here is we need to do something about the shelter inflation. Everyone knows that the inflation in the housing market is the stickiest, and the Federal Reserve has just not got the housing market rebalanced, reset, and under control. When I look at an eviction rate like in Las Vegas that's 60% higher than the pandemic, that tells me that consumers are not okay and that the entire economy, housing market, rental market is being propped up off of the back of hardworking Americans, and something needs to change. And do me a favor, share with me your opinions. Let me know what you think a solution would be, if there's a solution at all. And other than that, guys, I really hope you guys got some new value, insights, and perspective in today's video. And if you're out there investing in real estate, you know I wish you luck, and I hope you win.